Desire to Kill, by Olavo de Carvalho. Jornal da Tarde, January 22, 1998. Friends and readers ask me for my opinion on abortion. But naturally inclined to conserve effort, my brain refuses to form an opinion on anything unless there is a good reason to do so. Faced with any given issue, its instinctive reaction is to cling fiercely to the natural right of not thinking about it. However, in defending that right, it ends up having to question why the cursed problem exists in the first place. So, what started as an attempt not to think turns into an investigation of the fundamentals, the most philosophical pursuit there is. Future authors of depreciative biographies will rightly say that I became a philosopher out of mere laziness to think. But since laziness ranks issues by the scale of minimum priority, I developed an acute sense of the difference between problems imposed by the fatality of things and problems that exist only because certain people want them to. Now, the problem of abortion clearly belongs to the latter category. Debate on abortion exists because the practice of abortion exists, not the other way around. The decision in favor of abortion is the premise for the existence of abortion. But what is the premise of a debate cannot at the same time be its logical conclusion. The choice for abortion, being prior to any discussion, is inaccessible to arguments. The pro-abortionist is pro-abortion by free decision, which is independent of reasons. This freedom is directly affirmed by the act that realizes it, and multiplied by millions, it becomes a generically recognized freedom, consolidated into a right. Hence, the discourse in favor of abortion avoids the moral problem and clings to the legal and political grounds. It doesn't seek so much to affirm a value, but to establish a right, which, in theory, can coexist with the moral condemnation of the act. As for the content of the debate, abortion opponents argue that the fetus is a human being and that killing it is an act of homicide. Proponents argue that the fetus is merely a piece of flesh, a part of the mother's body, which should have the right to remove at will. In the current score of the dispute, neither side has succeeded in persuading the other. Nor it is reasonable to expect they will, for since there is no consensus in today's civilization about what is or isn't human nature, there are no shared premises on which to base a resolution. But the stalemate ends up transforming the entire discussion. Faced with it, we move from an unsolvable ethical metaphysical dispute in the current conditions of Western culture to a simple mathematical equation whose resolution should, in principle, be identical and equally compelling for all capable of understanding it. This equation is formulated as follows. If there is 50% chance that the fetus is human and 50% chance that it isn't, being on the latter hypothesis is literally choose an act that has 50% chance of being a homicide. With this, the issue becomes clearer than even the most resistant mind could demand. Without absolute certainty of the fetus' inhumanity, removing it implies a moral or immoral decision made in the dark. We could preserve the life of that creature and later discover that we invested our high ethical feelings in defending what, in the end, was nothing more than a mere thing. But we could also decide to remove the thing, running the risk of discovering, too late, that it was a human being. Between precaution and reckless bet, is there really a choice? Which of us, armed with a revolver, would feel morally authorized to fire it if we knew that we had 50% chance of hitting an innocent creature? Put another way, betting on the inhumanity of the fetus is flipping a coin on the survival or death of a possible human being. At this point in the reasoning, all pro-abortion arguments tune into anti-abortion arguments. For here we have the realm of the undecidable and encounter a firmly established global consensus. No defensible or indefensible advantage, no real or hypothetical benefits to third parties can justify risking the life of a human being on a gamble. But as we've seen, the pro-abortion choice is prior to any discussion, which is why the opportunists resent and denounce as repressive violence any opposing argument. The pro-abortion decision, being the precondition for the debate's existence, could not seek anything in the debate accept the ex post facto legitimization of something that was already irreversibly decided, with or without debate. The opportunists could not back down, even in the face of conclusive proof of the fetus humanity, much less in the face of the mere assessment of moral risk. They simply wish to take that risk, even with a 0% chance. They want what they want. For them, the death of unwanted fetuses is a matter of honor. It's about demonstrating, through actions and not arguments, a self-asserting freedom that dispenses with reasons, a Nietzschean pride for which even the slightest objection is an intolerable constraint. I believe I found reasons why my brain obstinately refused to think about the issue. It sensed the futility of all argument in the face of the brutal and irrational assertion of the pure will to kill. Of course, in many opportunists, this will remains subconscious, covered by a veil of humanity rationalizations which the media support strengthens and the militants shouting corroborates. But it's also clear that there is no point in arguing with people who can lie so tenaciously to themselves.